Peace, 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 Black people. Happy Juneteenth, Freedom Day, or free-ish. We still got a long way to go to get freedom, but happy Juneteenth, happy Freedom Day. So today I thought for lunchtime storytelling we would do a story, of course, about a freedom fighter. We have to do that. It's Juneteenth, duh. Welcome to Yemima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Yemima, and it is good to be Black in the land of the living once again. So let's get into it. I don't have a lot of time this morning. I'm doing an event in Williamsburg for Juneteenth celebration. I am going to be bringing some freedom stories from ancestor Queen Mother Harriet Tubman today. So I'm excited to be doing that, but I wanted to get this out because it's going to be late when I get back tonight and I want you to have this to listen to today. All right, so today, our freedom fighter, the book I'm going to be reading is called Makandal The Black Messiah by France Darencourt Jr., illustrated by Eminence System. All right. And in the front jacket of the book, I got this book off of Amazon. It's used, but in the front of the book, it says, handwritten, "Know Your Ancestors," and it's written by the author. So nicely done. All right. So again, Makandal, the Black Messiah. Special thanks. Thank you to my ancestors for inspiring me to write their memorable stories so that those that have never heard the names of Makandal, Bookman, Toussaint, Dessalines, and many others may salute their efforts and recognize them as heroes. Also, this book would not have been possible without the decades of study and research by historian Mark Davis. Wonder if we're related. Thank you for your website, your novel, and many email exchanges we have had. All right. Now, this is the author's note. It is impossible to do justice to such an important figure in history like Makandal, especially when his life is shredded in myth, legend, and hearsay. One of the many challenges in putting this book together was separating fact from legend in order to give an accurate account of Makandal's life as possible. However, since most of his exploits were not recorded at the time, it is impossible to write an official biography of his life. Many detailed parts of his life still remain unknown or not confirmed, which opens the door to many theories and debates. The question of the question of his missing hand is a perfect example. Some say that it was his hand that was missing. Some say it was his whole arm. Some question that he was missing a limb at all. And if he was missing a limb, how did he lose it? Was it an accident at the sugar refining plant? Or was it harsh discipline from his slave master? Was he a Muslim? Did he practice voodoo? Even the spelling of his name is a hot topic. Makandal, 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 and they're spelled differently. There are many questions that will be debated until the end of time. However, I didn't want the minor details to distract from the major impact that Makandal had in the freedom of enslaved Black people worldwide. During Makandal's time, the French colony of Saint Domingue was the most profitable colony in the world, and the treatment of enslaved Africans was one of the most severe. Makandal used his knowledge and leadership abilities to coordinate one of the biggest liberation movements of the 18th century. He is credited in unifying the Maroons, having them put their differences aside to fight for the greater good. His poison conspiracy network spanned from the Maroons in the mountains to the enslaved on the plantations to the free blacks and possibly whites on the island. He was able to organize and communicate with all of them in an attempt to end the enslavement of his people. In a time when French colonists were preaching doctrine in an effort to convince the Africans that they were born to be slaves, Macadal is credited with breaking those mental chains of slavery and using his knowledge to both Islam and Christianity. Makandal was a revolutionary that should never be forgotten. My hope is that this book sparks those that are interested to look deeper into his movement and carry the torch forward. All right. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. African proverb. This is based on a true story. There was once a talented and gifted boy, the son of a village chief in Congo, Africa. It was well known in the village that this 12-year-old boy had advanced abilities such as reading and writing in his native language, Arabic. This was something only a very small number of people in the area knew how to do. The boy was a masterful artist and would spend his days writing, painting, and playing musical instruments. One day, the son's village was raided by slave traders. These men would storm into villages in Africa, kidnapping thousands of people and enslaving them. The boy and his friends had tried to escape the raid by running into the forest, but it was too late. The boy was captured. When the slave traders kidnapped people from their villages, they would transport them to the coast where there were large slave ships waiting to take them to the New World. The village chief's son was a standout while he was being boarded onto the ship because of his rebellious nature and the fact that he was one of the few Africans in the surrounding regions that still spoke fluent Arabic. Now, since the slave traders kidnapped him from a kingdom named Makandal, they named the boy Makandal. The journey to the New World was long and scary, but Makandal remained brave. Makandal was led off of the slave ship, and he stepped onto land for the first time in over a month. He was told the name of his new world was Saint Domingue, present day Haiti. Saint Domingue was a colony of France. Makandal was an instant popular figure on the plantation. The other enslaved people were always in awe of his unique abilities. He was known for his wit and intelligence, and he raised the morale and confidence of all the enslaved Africans around him. Makandal had become the plantation medicine man because of his vast knowledge of plants. He knew the healing effects of dozens of plants that grew on the island. People from plantations near and far came to him to be cured from different ailments and diseases, and he was always happy to help. Makandal loved telling the people on the plantation stories about his ancestors in Africa. People would always gather around him to hear him speak. Makandal had taught himself how to read and speak the French language very quickly and started teaching the other enslaved people on the plantation. The slave masters didn't like this because education of the slave was strictly forbidden. They started keeping a close eye on him. Now, a young man at 18, Makandal met an enslaved woman he liked and began to spend time with her. The only problem was that she worked in the slave master's house, and he would have to sneak over there to see her. When the slave master saw this, he became very angry and had Makandal captured and sentenced to 50 lashes with a bullwhip, which no person could survive. While Makandal was receiving his punishment, he managed to break free from his shackles and escape into the mountains. He was hurt very badly, but this didn't slow him down. And while in the mountains, Makandal joined a village of Maroons. A Maroon was a person who had escaped slavery. There were thousands of Maroons in the mountains and dozens of Maroon villages. And while in his village, Makandal began to speak out against the injustice of slavery. He said that slavery was not the reason for their existence. He preached that everyone was equal and deserved to be free, which was what the opposite of what the French slave masters had told them. Makandal was able to unite all the different Maroon tribes in the mountains with his message, which was to fight for one common goal, an end to the enslavement of their brothers and sisters on the plantation. Makandal captured the attention of every enslaved person on the colony. Most of them had already accepted their fate as slaves, but Makandal gave them hope. The Maroons would usually band together at night and raid plantations for food, clothes, and other supplies that they needed to survive in the mountains. They would also use the raids as an opportunity to recruit new Maroons. Makandal was always one of the most fearless leaders of the Maroons, and he was dashing and daring in his conquests. His exploits during the raids would only add to his legend. During one of the raids, Makandal was caught by the slave masters and locked up in a jail on the plantation. The penalty for raids against the French slave owners was death. But when the slave master went to Makandal's cell to carry out his sentence, he was gone. He had escaped again. Drawing on his experience performing successful raids on the plantation, Makandal came up with a plan to defeat the French slave masters and free the island of slavery once and for all. But in order for his plan to work properly, he would need the help of the free people of color, and Saint Domingue, who had access to resources he needed in order to win the battle. However, he could not convince them to join his revolution. See, I'm going to step away from the book. See, they were free and they didn't want to reach back and free nobody else. Even though he did not get any support from the free people of color, Makandal did not give up on his plan to end the enslavement of his people. He decided to fight his enemy using what he knew best, plants. And just as he knew how to create medicine from plants, he also knew how to make poison. He formed a plan to make thousands of portions of poison using the native plants in the mountains and distribute them to his vast network of people on the plantation. Ooh, I'm loving Mackendall. They would put the poison in the slave master's food and drinks. After the slave owners had fallen sick from the poison, he would attack the plantation with his Maroon army. Mackendall went back into the mountains to regroup the Maroons and plan an even larger attack against the slave master. His burning desire to end slavery was felt through the whole colony of St. Domingue. By this time, Mackendall had an army of hundreds of Maroons in the mountains ready to go to war. The French slave master knew Mackendall was a big problem and could jeopardize the whole system of slavery, which they depended on for their wealth. They decided to go to the extreme measures to try to find him. The slave masters would look for people that suspected where he was hiding and begin to torture them for information. The pain was so unbearable that some of them finally agreed to set a trap to capture him. The slave masters sent their guards to take Mackendall into custody, and after many failed attempts, they eventually arrested him. The slave masters attempted to make an example of Mackendall, so they tied him to a stake in front of thousands of people in the town square. As he was set to be executed, Makandal proclaimed loudly that slavery would end and the black people of Saint Domingue would rise up to rule the island themselves. All the enslaved Africans in attendance who heard him started to believe him. Before his executioners were set to light fire to Makandal at the stake, he proclaimed that when he passed into the afterlife, he would come back as a mosquito to terrorize his enemies, the French slave masters. And there are many different versions of what happened on that day on January 20th, 1758. Some say that he broke free from his bonds and escaped into the mountains, while some say he perished at the stake. Either way, Mackendall was never heard from again. 33 years after Mackendall's death or disappearance, a Maroon named Dutty Bookman held a secret ceremony at the same site where Mackendall had made some of his inspiring speeches. The site is known as Bois Cayman, the starting place of the Haitian Revolution. That victory made Haiti the first Black republic in the history of the world on January 1st, 1804. One of the many reasons that Haitian rebels were victorious in their war for independence was the rapid spread of yellow fever that claimed the lives of over 20,000 European soldiers. The deadly virus was spread by an infestation of mosquitoes. To this day, many Haitian people believe the infestation of mosquitoes was the reincarnation of the African village chief's son, Mackendall. This book has so many layers and so much information packed into this few pages. It's not that long of a story, but the information, Mackendall, where he came from, where he originated from, with the Congo in Africa, he brought knowledge with him. He already knew how to read and write Arabic when he got to Haiti. Um, he knew how to work with roots, plants, and herbs, something he probably learned as a child in Africa and brought that knowledge again with him to Haiti and was able to heal his fellow man, but to harm his oppressor. And that is what a lot of our ancestors knew. Um, and we don't have to necessarily use plants and herbs in to that magnitude in today's time, because we have to use what we have in the time and space that we're in. So if something that we have can help our fellow man, then that's what we need to do. And if something we have can hurt our oppressors to get them off of our necks, then that's what we have to use. But you have to figure out what it is that, and when I say hurt, I don't necessarily mean physically. A protest to stop giving your money to white neighborhoods hurts your oppressor. It hurts them in their pockets. Dr. King, who was also considered a black messiah, talked about that very thing, that the way to hurt your oppressor is to hit them in their pockets. And so Makandal chose plants and herbs, but we don't have to choose that. You choose what's available to you and what you have access to help your fellow man and to get your oppressor off of your neck. So that is the story of liberation of Makandal. I love the fact that he paved the way for Dutty Bookman and Toussaint Louverture and Cecile Fetiman and Dessalines St. Jacques. I love the fact that he paved the way. And so if you honor your ancestor, I promise you they will honor you. And in this day of freedom, in this day of Juneteenth, I challenge you to remember your personal ancestors. Go back as far as you can. If you can go back to those that were born into slavery but received their freedom, especially honor those today. Eat something green to honor the wealth of our ancestors, whether they were wealth in freedom or in love or whatever it is. And eat something red to honor the blood that they shed so that we could have our freedom today. Walk boldly in your freedom today. And until next time, you know the drill. Love yourself, love each other, give yourself some grace, give each other grace. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay black. Till next time.